So here we go. We have in front of us the Tier 7 California. Now, don't understand quite why, but with this special camouflage, you can see that the turrets are rather dark, although they shine quite nicely in the sun. It's kind of a neat effect. You know, it looks very American. Yay. So there you have it. She also comes in a more standard paint scheme, should the other one be a little too gaudy, too American, too in your face. So there you have it. And then there's also the alternate color scheme, which I think looks kind of nice. Now, you could also go for any of the single-use camos, of course. Now, there's a 200% first win bonus. I'm going to take a risk in this ship that I'm going to win the game that I take her out into. So I'm going to put Frosty Fir Tree on her. Or, you know what I could do? Because I rarely ever use this camouflage. Give me a second. I need to find it. Aha! What do you think, huh? Huh? Is that America enough for everyone? Happy 4th weekend to you too, Predator. Look at that. All in the red, the white, and the blue, and the stars, and all that kind of stuff, right? That's how we want this ship to look, right? America! Very patriotic indeed, and it's pretty good camouflage bonuses, assuming we get a first win. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the California. And go into a game with her. We'll talk about the pros and the cons and stuff like that. So, I've talked about her before when we were doing testing. We were allowed to stream testing, and with the California being released. Now it's time to look at a final review. Oh no.
SFNL1 just resubscribed for 11 months. California equals floating settee.
Settee. Thanks for that sub, SF. So when we take a look at the ship itself, she's got, you know, your standard consumables. She does have a spotting aircraft or a fighter. Her anti-air isn't that bad, so I'd probably recommend going with the spotting aircraft unless you struggle shooting at things at long range with the spotter up. For upgrades, you know, it's really up to you how you want to spec her. When I was testing, I found I enjoyed her best when I went for secondary memes. As a matter of fact, I think I might put Oxmod on it, because I can. And then secondary range, you could alternately put artillery plotting room on, but you know, 20 kilometer range is, I don't know that you really care to go for longer than that. And quite frankly, you're going to have the spotting plane as well, so you can do that as well. How do you make everything disappear? To look at the ship's camo, right click. That's all you have to do, is hold down the right click, right mouse button, and then drag them up. Originally I put the California in the New York harbor, and then I thought to myself, I think she belongs in Hawaii, huh? I think she belongs in Hawaii. So anyways, so that's how I would spec her for upgrades. Flags, I mean, honestly, nothing special in the signal flag department. Pretty much everything you'd normally want to go with it. You'll notice that I haven't put a Juliet Charlie on, because I think it would be fun to see this ship detonate. You know, like this. You know, that might be kind of cool. All right. So anyway, we're gonna try with that and see what happens. Now let's talk about the ship's characteristics first and foremost. She's got 356mm guns. These guns are, she's very similar to the New Mexico in the gun department. Though I believe her Sigma is better, so she is gonna have better accuracy. 34.2 second reload in the New Mexico, and let's once again go ahead and compare with the California. Set her as a primary ship, so this is right there. 34.2 as well. So really, I mean, it's you're taking the New Mexico guns and you're up tiering her, and then you're putting her on a modified hull that is just so thick. I mean, you can't understate how thick this hull is. Look at that. And then once again, we'll go to the new mechs, and you can see just I mean, it doesn't compare. Out of this world. Is that a New Mexico or a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Lol. So, anyways, so she's got the guns. The guns are fine. The guns are fine. She's got secondaries. Now, because she's got these secondaries, a lot of people will say, "Oh, let's spec her for secondary build." Keep in mind, she's got, 8 times 2, so that's 16 total guns, firing at 5.7 seconds. I want to draw your attention to the Colorado for a moment. Here, we've got 4.3 seconds, 8 of them, and 6.6 seconds, 8 of them. So, in reality, California's... It doesn't feel like an upgrade in the secondary department compared to what you see here with the Colorado. Other standard battleships, you've got the West Virginia that's got the 16-inch guns at tier 6 as well. And then, of course, you've got the favorite of a lot of people, the Arizona at tier 6. So the California has a lot of competition when it comes to, U.S. standard battleships. She's fun to look at, but one of the things that I found she struggles with is, especially getting into tier 9, she doesn't have a ton going for it. It's the typical standard USN battleship, 20.5 knots. It's actually half a knot slower, probably because it's so much chonkier. I mean, you can just see how chonky she is. So there's that. Survivability wise, okay. I mean, I would think that the torpedo belt protection would be higher, considering these gigantic torpedo bulges added, but whatever. Thank you, SF. Her anti-air defense is quite nice, though, with a rating of 87. Compare that to the Colorado's rating of 62, New Mexico's rating of 53, and the Arkansas Beta's rating of lol. So she's got pretty good anti-air, but unfortunately, it's not enough anti-air that planes just start dropping from the sky. So keep that in mind. Concealment-wise, with the concealment build on the captain, it's not too bad. You can see I've opted for Captain Kappa, because in my opinion, you put Kappa on a secondary spec battleship because that's just funny. But if I were to put a standard, tank build captain on with concealment expert, you can see here that concealment detectability goes down to 11.8 kilometers. How does that compare to a ship like the Colorado? Well, 16.2 by default, then you drop it another 10% with the commander, so what is that, 15, 14 point something? So California, you can actually get pretty stealthy, which is also kind of funny considering how, but hey, what if? But I prefer to play her. I prefer to play her with secondary memes. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take her into a secondary meme game. When you max out the secondaries, you can see that you can get her out to 7.6 kilometers. At tier 7, that's about as good as it gets, aside from a couple ships. But honestly, when you get into a tier 8 match, those 7.6 kilometer secondaries really don't mean too much. The other thing we want to talk about is her armor layout. This is where she's just weird compared to the other USN battleships. So if we were to drop our sides, our front side armor, first of all, 26mm plating, 26 on the deck, 26 on the upper. This is the important part right here, this strip. And then we go down back to 26 there. We got 31mm armor in the back portion of the ship. Why? I don't know. And then the side plating down here is 35mm. Now, that's a blessing and a curse. The nice thing is at 35mm, it's hard for HE shells that are, say, like tier 8 and up with IFHE spamming to pen, because they will pen 32mm. They won't pen. No, wait. I'm thinking if the tier 7s and under with the IFHE, they won't be able to pen the 35mm plating here. They will be able to pen the upper plating and the bow, however. So keep that in mind. The thing is, when we drop the sides here, look at the bow, and I mean, if her bow gets overmatched, boom, she takes Citadels. From the side, you can see there's this ginormous gap in the armor. And obviously, if a shell breaks through the first, but then bounces and penetrates in the torpedo bulge, that's a different story. But she does take quite a bit of Citadel damage, and just damage in general, compared to the Colorado. Once again, look at the Colorado. We've got 26 and then 26 on the sides, but we drop that and we go to 343mm of armor. And you can see that the Citadel is about the same height. But armor scheme wise, I never really felt like the California had a lot going for it. But you'll see that when we get into the game. It's one thing to discuss it and show it, but it's another thing to play a game with it. And there you can see the Citadel itself underwater. So that's kind of neat. It's good for brawling, but it just, by the time you get there, it's so hard to actually, do the brawling action. Alright, let's get into a game, and then we'll do some final comments about it, and then I've got some other ships to show you guys. Alright, Crow Panzer, you know what, let's get in here. Crow Panzer with the flex! Catch up on chat here. Deadliest, she does not have a butt anchor. I looked. Although there's that little notch there with that special Murica camo, but that's about it. Yep, exactly right, Salty. That huge alpha damage on the flat part just above the side plating. That's where it's going to be. Hey, Tone. Tone, what is the NA announcement? The NA announcement is soon.tm. We are an hour and 45 minutes away. And look, we're tier 9 games! Yay! Bottom tier, love it! But at least the ship looks cool, huh? Oh, I forgot to take a screenshot. Lighting isn't that great. I know what I'll do. Let's do an ultra. How's that, huh? I love telephoto, and there's a very famous ship picture of you guys have probably seen it, the battle line of ships. Now the California and Tennessee weren't in that battle line, but it still looked damn awesome to see. So there we go. All that chonk. And you're gonna hit the camera. Boink! America compartments. Alright, I need to bring that back. Alright, so we've got tier 10 ship, or sorry, tier 8 ships carriers to deal with. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to show you guys a little bit of the anti-air in action. We've got a Georgia that's going to just make mincemeat out of all of our armor. And Odin, I'm not so worried about the Odin. The Vlad and the Nelson both have 16-inch guns. That's a problem. And then the Sara can pen an awful lot with its SAP armor. And of course, Akizuki, Tashkent, lots of threats for me. So, yay, threats! Before I forget, I need to mention that this ship was provided to me for free by Wargaming for review purposes. Uh-oh, we're detected already. Of course, just when I've got the ability to open fire, that Donskoy just disappears. Go, go, gadget guns. Let's turn already.
Problem solved, sir.
Oh man, he's almost in secondary range.
Designated target.
He's gonna die anyway. Wow, nice torpedoes. Well done, Oland. As I sit broadside to a Vlad. This is gonna hurt. No, not bad actually. Just making sure everything's looking good and healthy for the stream. So far, so good. And then St. Louis is already saying, I don't want to deal with this. Just checking up on the chat. Oh, you're going broadside? Stop the turn, stop the turn, stop the... Oh, too late. That's alright. Oh, of course. Once again, I'm about to shoot and the guy just disappears. But we've got a Nelson here that we could smack, perhaps. I hate outturning my guns, so that's one thing I might change differently. Is put that turret rotation modification on. Especially now that there's no penalty to reload.
Enemy cruiser detected.
Is the Vlad also running? Yeah, he is. Oh well.
All stations requesting fire on the designated target.
Yes, Colorado is half a knot faster. So these guys are all just gonna kite away and be jerks. Try to time that so I can shoot the St. Louis as he started turning in. Of course, he had plenty of time to change. These shells have pretty lofty arcs. But if you're gonna spec for secondaries on the ship, and not run concealment, then what you need to do is you need to basically use islands to get yourself up close and personal. So that's kind of what I'm doing right here. The island prevents me from being hit from the Nelson and the Vlad. And I'm just gonna slowly but surely work my way into the game. What's up, Mr. J? How you doing? Now the only problem with this is with the St. Louis turning back in,
Concentrate fire on the designated
he's
target.
gonna detect me pretty soon here, and then he's just gonna start me on fire again. He's already set me on fire twice. I've DCP'd him immediately both times, but I mean, you know, that's just what St. Louis's do. Here it comes. And I'm gonna wait and see if he decides to turn out. He's up against an island, which is gonna force him into a bow-on situation,
Concentrate fire on the target.
which is good.
The ship is on fire.
But as soon as I fire, he's just gonna slow down and turn in. That's what the typical cruiser response is. Plane up, not so that I can hit the St. Louis, but plane up so I can keep an eye on the Vlad. There he is.
All stations reporting the position
And
of a
I can get my
strategic target.
secondaries going. Woo! See what this Vlad does. And What is angling? Fortunately,
Ship is on fire.
I'm in secondary range, so I can do a little bit more damage. But, yeah. Ta-da! There she goes. There she blows! 17,000 damage, bottom tier. This is one of the few ships that I seriously would not recommend spending any money on. She was really frustratingly terrible when I tested her. You guys saw that, those of you that have been following the channel. And guess what? Newsflash, she's still bad. So very difficult against even battleships of similar tier that have the 16-inch guns. You saw what the Vlad did to me, even though I had a pretty decent angle on him. So, about like buying champagne. So rock champagne actually has some use in that you can be effective in the game without having to close to, you know, ridiculous range. I mean, the only way for me to be effective in that game was to either close to ridiculous range or sit in the back and try to lob shells. And this ship is not a ship that you just sit in the back and farm with. That's the champagne. So I hate to say it, but I would not spend money on the California. I have no intention of playing her ever again, other than maybe in Narai, maybe, or if there's a Snowflake event and I need to get a co-op win in her. Otherwise, to me, I'd rather be playing any other premium American battleship. I'd rather play the Arizona at tier 6, because now I'm not seeing tier 9 ships. I'm seeing tier 8s at the highest. And I feel like the ship is far more tanky, far more maneuverable than the California. I might even rather play the West Virginia at tier 6, to be honest. So I hate that I have to say that, because I usually do like to tell you guys that some ships are good and worthwhile and stuff, but I just don't see it with this. Now, your experience might vary. You might get the ship, love it, and have fun with it. If you watched my my games when I was testing the ship, I had some amazingly hilarious games where I just went into the middle of the map and blew everything up. This map, that doesn't work. Too big. Too many islands. Too wide open. Hey, Ephra.
McMittens Mitchard X2, California very well awaited. Zaf disapproves.
That's right, Zaf disapproves. Now, when the game ends, we'll go and we'll take a look at the armor scheme and why it sucked up all that damage from the Vlad. We'll talk about, you know, how much damage I did, all that good stuff. Was it originally supposed to have God tier secondaries? Well, Rock, I had 29 secondary hits in that whole game. I spent a decent amount of time in that range of secondaries, but the thing is, let me pull up my calculator.
The enemy is about to win.
127mm secondaries, divide that by 6. I'm penetrating 21mm of armor. 21. Which means that the secondaries that hit aren't even going to hit, aren't even going to penetrate most armor that they hit. So that would require you to spec into IFHE if you wanted to do anything. 21 times 1.25 is still 26. So if you want to penetrate cruiser armor with secondaries, then you need to run IFHE. Yeah, that's right. What do I expect from a ship without a butt anchor? That's absolutely correct. Well, hopefully our PSV guys will die soon. No offense to them, so that we can, you know, move on and I can show you the next new hotness. Guys in chat, any questions? Anything you want me to comment on about the ship? Please ask away. One alternate playstyle you could do with the California is you could spec it for HE, and you could just simply sit back and spam with a full tank build. She does have pretty good concealment, so I could see you trying to get away with that. The only problem is, at 20 and a half knots, there's no way that you're gonna not be outrun by literally everything else you run across. Thank you, sailboat. And now our team has 1 point. How much dirty water is required before it's fun to play? Much. Oh, come on, sailboat. Drag on the game even longer. Yeah, exactly, Nevermore. If I'm gonna play like that, I'd rather play a King George. It's free, and it does a better job of it. Does that armor lend to full pens on the whole ships from SAP as opposed to other battleships where you have to aim for the superstructure? Deadweight, we'll take a look at that. Let's take a look now while we wait for this game to end. Kane, I'm doing my review right now, so I saw you posted the clip and we'll take a look at it later. Oh, alright, game ended. So let's talk about our detailed report. Let's see where we ended up on the team. Oh look, dead last, woo! Let's talk about why. Well, look at how much damage I did. Look at my secondary shell hits. I fired 64, hit 29 of those. That's with manual fire control for secondaries. And I did a whopping 486 damage. Now, that was 3486. Actually, you know what? Yes, 300, and that was 29 total hits. So I did an average of 120 points of damage per shell hit. These shells are supposed to do up to 1,800 damage. Now, a penetration is a third of that, so 600. So for every penetrating hit, you do 600 damage. So if I averaged 120 damage, then roughly 1 out of every 5 shell hits were penetrating hits. In other words, 4 out of the 5 were non-penetrations. Who was that I was up against? That was a Charles Martel, if I recall correctly. Let's see. St. Louis, that's right. Okay, so Tier 9 St. Louis. So let's go take a look at this at the Tier 9 St. Louis for a second. Let's look at the armor layout. 25mm. So if I want to penetrate the bow armor of the St. Louis in that engagement, I need IFHE. If I want to penetrate the deck and the armor belt here, well, guess what? I can't. I can penetrate the superstructure because that's 16mm plating, and that's it. Let's go back to the California again, and now let's take a look at the damage that I sucked up. So I received just under 70,000 damage. Look at how much damage I received from the Vladivostok. 8 shell hits for 15,000 damage. So that's 2,000 damage a shell hit. Why? Because he hit me about here, right? This is about the angle. Let's see. It's about angled like maybe like this. That's probably the angle I was presenting the guy. And he hit me right here on the side plating. Those 16-inch shells obviously will penetrate that side. As a matter of fact, let's do another calculator math here. So 406 divided by 14.3 is 28. So you know what? He might have actually hit me right here on the front part of the ship more. It looked like it was a side and looked like I was angling more. Or maybe he hit me up here in the upper plating. Either way, 14.3 overmatches no matter what the angle is. And regardless, if I was showing more of an angle and he hit the side plating, he'll still penetrate that. Let's drop the side plating. what does he hit next after dropping the side plating? He hits the armor belt if it's low enough. If it's too high, he still hits this 26mm casemate armor. All right, and if it's low enough, he hits the citadel. I don't think he hit the citadel, but I think what he did was he hit the armor belt, and he penetrated the armor belt, and that's what caused me to take the damage that I took. Alternately, it's very easy for you to be overmatched in the bow and then take a bunch of damage right here in the athwart ship. That could have been what he hit too. So, two easy ways for this ship to suck up damage. Now, somebody was asking about the Italian cruisers and their SAP salvos and how much they pen. Remember, 35mm pen is the side plating down here, and only 26mm plating is the side up here. Technically, it's got the 31 back here, but you're probably not going to be hitting the back that much. You're going to be hitting the front and the sides, right? So you're looking at 26 and 35, okay? Tier 5 ship, or Tier 7 ship, which means you can go into Tier 5 and up. So let's start with probably the crappiest ship of all, the Genova. Oh, look, it penetrates 54mm of armor. Trento, Tier 5. Oh look, 54mm armor. Tier 7 Zara. Oh look, 54mm. Do you see where I'm going with this? Every single hit from an Italian cruiser will penetrate not only the upper belt, but also that side, that extra little side armor. And that's what makes it really hard. That's what makes this ship just suck up so much damage from SAP shells. Here, 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 and here. Any of that, I mean, it just sucks up that damage. So, yeah. Go back to that St. Louis for a second. St. Louis's 203s will penetrate 34mm armor. He was shooting me in the upper belt and the bow, and he was getting nothing but penetrations in that engagement as well. Nothing but penetrations here in the bow, nothing but penetrations on my upper deck and on my plating. Sure, if he didn't have IFHE, then there's no way he's getting the side plating, but it doesn't matter. So, I honestly, in good conscience, cannot recommend this ship for you guys. Any last questions that you want to ask before we move into talking about the German aircraft carrier line? And yes, I would much rather be playing a Colorado than the California. I love the Colorado. To be quite honest, if I want the same gameplay experience of playing the California, I would play the New Mexico, because it's the same. The only thing that's good about her scheme is the below water citadel, but you're not going to die by citadel. You're going to die by full pen after full pen after full pen after full pen until you're finally dead. So I wanted to like the ship. I really wanted to like the California. She looks pretty. She looks mean. But unless they do something special like give American secondaries 1/4 HE pin, hint hint wargaming, honestly, yeah, I can't see it. More favorable tiering. Yeah. Alright guys, well, that's it for our review. Thanks for watching. We're going to switch over